kind of speaks on American history and kind of lays it out. And I thought it was interesting when he was talking about the relationship between the British and the Americans. He used the words oppressed and oppressor, and I feel like he's attempting to draw parallels. Well, he was drawing parallels to slavery and that kind of power struggle within his speech, because initially he's talking about the history, and then he says bring it to present day, and he talks about why he can't personally celebrate this holiday. He can only mourn because of what happened to African American people.
Okay. So you have any lesson?
Yeah, question. So the title of his speech was "What is a Slave?" The 4th of July, and basically, just like what she said, he made the connection. It was kind of like the first time I'd ever heard anybody make a connection to slavery and using it in connection with the British rule.
Oh.
But it was really good how he used it, because I feel like he was able to like grab their attention. Because I feel like a lot of the times people want to make white people understand, you know, what it's like to feel oppressed by another group, and just never really like hit home. And I feel like that was just perfect. And basically how it really that time period was meant to help the white race succeed. You mentioned that you know, even to this day you're still succeeding, but us as black people, we're still suffering. And even dating back to the Constitution, it's not for black people. Like, we the people is for those people, not for us. So he really just dissected all of it and just made it be very like in your face, and like, this is what the issues are, and I want you to understand.
How many of you ever read his slave narratives? He was a profound speaker. He would go around and speak, and people couldn't believe that he had once been a slave. He had to tell them, yes, I was. But he was very profound. I've read all of the slave narratives, you know, over the years. But I mean, very profound. I mean, very thought-provoking and what have you. But this was a very good piece.
I missed it. Can I
Okay.
say one last point? He said that where I once was as a slave, where I'm at now is not too far. I mean, that was very profound.
Yes. I saw her hand first.
I kind of feel like everything I was going to say was pretty much
Okay. You have a reaction to the point?
In reference to what you said, Gabriel, and the fact of the Constitution being supposed to be for we the people, for that generation, or for that same group of people. I noticed the terms that he used, I remember, was instead of saying like our Constitution, it was like that Constitution. So I know that's one way, like it was just like he was distinguishing between, you know, us as being his people, and then them being their own group, their own entity. That's it out to me.
I absolutely with Gabriel with his point of Frederick Douglass. One of the things he said when he got to the podium is, "Are you mocking me?" Because he was a former slave. It's like, are you seriously asking me to speak to you about a piece of paper that didn't declare me independent, nor, you know, my sisters and brothers and my family? So why am I here? And then how he just spoke to them and told them basically, this country shed more blood than any other country at a time when Europe was, or England was abolishing slavery. You're compromising over here to try to keep slavery alive. So how can you do that? And then ask me to say, this date is for me.
One thing that I noticed, piggybacking off of Raven, he had said, your nation is so young. And instead of saying our, he was saying like your, and then he was saying like compared to the other nations that's been alive for like thousands of years, he was saying like our nation is still capable of change.
And how old was the nation? And I want you to get into specifics, because I failed to bring the excerpts, because I want you to bring out excerpts. I want to hear his language we can talk about, but I want you to give me some examples. But why did he bring that point up about the nation being young? It was what, how old, 70 what? 76. And he said for a man, a human being, that's well up in age, you're probably getting older or old. But for a nation, you're just a babe. Why that point? Right, show of hand. Why that point? Why did he make that point? Let me hear from somebody here. And last name again, please.
Thompson.
Okay, Thompson.
I think he made that point to basically shine a light on not only just saying that there's an opportunity for change, but also showing the fact that we've come this far, and yet there still is no change. So I think he was not just trying to shared the opportunity of change. I think he was basically, in a way, bashing his audience by telling them, we're free, but we're not free.
So he seems to be hopeful. That you're young, you still have a chance to get this right. He starts on that note, he ends on that note. Who does that remind you of? We're going to be making connections here. In our time, yes. Barack Obama. And sometimes people are, and I understand both sides, but sometimes people are mocked or heavily criticized because they're hopeful. We would call that term idealism. You're too ideal. And that was the thing when you read, that's the name of his book, and that's the point. He says, I'm bold enough. It's called what? The audacity to hope. And when you look through that book, he goes chapter by chapter and talk about the things that are wrong, but he has the hope that it can get better. So he's saying this nation is still young in its origin. And so he's hopeful that it can change. Did he not, walk me through the points, did he not start out by somewhat praising the founding fathers? Explain. Somebody help him.
He was basically saying that they put their interests aside for the nation. So he was praising them. And one thing I realized, even the Thurgood Marshall, I didn't remember any praising at all. So I But yeah, he was praising them and then saying, yeah.
So he started out, and that's, sometimes when you're getting ready to lower the boom on somebody, you start out. So that was a sort of strategy, and that's the way he spoke when you look at all of his speeches. So he started out, well, I can agree on this point, but I'm sure they didn't know he was going to turn the corner.
I think that was the purpose, because he wasn't going to fully be able to reach them if he wasn't able to, at least
Get their attention.
You have to know how to reach people. So he started out on a positive note. He even talked about how nervous he was to be before this crowd. Is that correct? I saw some hands.
I wanted to chime in with that. I believe that the point in which he started to sort of turn more towards the point he was trying to make is when he stated, you have no right to wear out and waste the hard-earned fame of your fathers to cover your indolence.
Yes.
And so he's then beginning to say, you become lazy, you've lost sight of what you're living in, and the forefront which your fathers were really trying to fight for in terms of defeating oppression.
And you just brought up a very good point, because sometimes they say we throw out the baby with the bath water. Is the problem the document, or is it the people that interpret the document?
The people.
I think it's both.
It's both. Who made the document? We're going to come back to that question when we bring it to present day. Marshall. Think about that. That's the question. We the people. We're going to come back to that. Okay. Take me to another point. Okay.
I made a note of this when he said that just because the chains of servitude have been stripped away doesn't mean that he will be to celebrate U.S. independence. Because I guess in that time, a lot of African Americans thought as though if they were free, they could still be viewed, they would be equal to Caucasian men, Caucasian women, but that wasn't the case. So in my essay, I correlated it with how in the United States today, African Americans don't necessarily celebrate the 4th of July for its actual meaning, but we celebrate family and each other. That's one point that I really like.
Sorry to say, but most of these holidays, people just glad to be off work. So I don't know if they really get, and I'm saying that's the majority of people, it's a lot of them. So yeah, good observation. Somebody else? Here.
Just to piggyback off that, he mentions that there are 72 crimes that a black man will be punished to death for, but a white man won't. So just further pointing out the separation and the fact that this holiday really isn't for us.
Okay.
I thought it was interesting how he incorporated religion in his speech.
Yes.
And that's what I want to give me some of those specific points, because he deals with the church, religion, religion. It goes hand in hand, but not exactly the same. Go ahead.
He basically says, like, he basically touches on the fact that, African Americans, like, are without homes, work with no pay, starving as slaves, and he says that it's blasphemy, and basically says, you might as well be adulterers, you might as well do all of the sins because you're doing this and you're considering it okay, but it's really not. You're incorporating sin in your life, but not really realizing it.
Okay.
And to go off of what you're saying as well, he also makes a point that foreign churches have already started to diverge from supporting slavery. However, domestic churches have failed to explicitly state that slavery was bad.
Correlate to present day.
And how he is, I mean, you go back to before when he was still on the campaign trail, not speaking out against David Duke, knowing the background of David Duke and what he did, still taking the money from the NRA, knowing that the NRA is oppressing African Americans and how it's
Okay. Something else too.
I look at I don't know what it was called, but when a lot of pastors, met with Trump recently, and basically being in his presence for one just shows how, blind some pastors are to the reality of what's going on, or not even, maybe not blind, but just refusing.
That's the piece that I did because my husband is a pastor, and I've always asked this question. So you're hearing about I asked this question years ago. I did a piece on it at the conference last year, speaking specifically of the white evangelicals. Very out front when it comes to abortion issues. I'm not saying, if that's what you believe, that's what you should do. But if you're going to speak out against issues, why are we quiet on these? Why? And so he's asking that same question. You are the church. You are the leaders of the church. And you look at these atrocities and your mouth is closed. Why not? Why are you not addressing these issues? And I'll point for a minute, that is a lot of, this last one went around, these were black pastors, so they really caught it. If you get on the internet, you will see. But I'm speaking specifically of the white evangelicals because of the Republican Party, because they've been very vocal on the wrongs and the ills of society. And when you see people being shot down in the streets, that's a life also. Since they are pro-life, this is a life also. So why are you silent on these issues and you are speaking very heavily here? So again, you're going to see he's going to address the church in the piece also that we were talking about, because that's a big factor when you deal with politics. You had a question or response?
Another connection, Paula White, who I didn't know she was his, I guess his pastor or whatever, but she said, and we used to watch Paula White back when I was younger. She hadn't been on TV in a long time, down a lot. But so she said, in response to immigrants coming to America, and someone was making the connection, well, they were saying, well, wasn't Jesus technically an immigrant because he didn't stay in, I think, was it Nazareth the whole time or something like that? So that's when she said, well, no, Jesus didn't break the law, because if he would have broke the law, he would have been the Messiah. Basically trying to connect that to immigrants coming to America and breaking the law, which was just, to me, very ignorant to say. So yeah, that's another example of religion being used.
So you see the same thing. I'll make a point, you see the same kinds of issues. I was reading a piece that was in, I said, that is true. We asked the question, why are they not speaking out, but they've never spoken out. When you go back and look at I'm speaking of the church now, on many of these issues. That's not to say, because he did isolate, he tried to be fair. He said, with the exception of, he named some names, but overall, generally, this is not happening. And he's saying, you're supposed to be the leader, you can deal with these things, and yet you say nothing. So that makes your religion questionable, that makes you questionable, what have you. And we can say the same thing today, because people are beginning to ask those questions. Another point. He calls out several things in this piece.
churches, I'm thinking of institutions established within this country. So he calls out the churches, right? But then he also calls out the legislative processors, right? In reference to the slave laws, he says it's a one-sided compromise. He calls it tyrannical legislation. I find that because you're trying to get away from tyranny, but then now you have tyrannical legislation that comprises of infringing on the manhood and liberties of African Americans.
Okay. Anything? Yes.
He also goes to say that no one on earth would volunteer to be a slave. So he says, volunteer to be a slave himself. So he says, how can it be that people are in favor of, inflicting that on other human beings?
What else?
I think the things on humanity, like how they're speaking about, but he really speaks on the humane injustice of the treating of Black people, yet you're celebrating the independence. So he's basically calling all of them, not only those that are, excuse me, in the room, but also the framers that framed this document. It's like you're talking out of both sides. You can't say that I'm good with this. I'm good with beating this Black man to a pulp and raping this Black woman, but then on the other side say I love God.
And so, and that's what he says. He said that, and I forgot the exact wording, but it'll come to me in a second. But he makes that point, and that's what we have to do. He's not just emotionally talking. That's what I want you to give him. He gave an example. He even said, I've heard this as a child. I would hear this. What did he say? I would hear this. And he said it would have such a profound, dark effect upon me. What was he talking about? That's his saying. When you throw something out there, you have to support it. He supported it. He threw it right there in their face. Did he not talk about the slave ships? You could hear the chains. You could hear the moaning. Did he not talk about that? He said, I could hear from my bedroom or whatever. I could hear from my house. I could hear it. And it was a piercing sound. It was a dark sound to me. It was a disturbing sound to me. I'm emphasizing. He said, in the morning I would ask my mistress about this, and she would agree that this was a terrible thing. He talked about the woman, her shoulders are out, bearing the son, and then carrying a baby. Her tears dropping on her baby. People being chained like animals, being transported from here to there to be sold. So he paints a picture there and say this couldn't be right. You want to address the humanness of people. How did he explain? He said, well, by your very action, you are admitting that these people are human. What did he say there?
The 3/5 when you're only, and then it's only Black men. It wasn't Black women. And they were only for representation in Congress.
Only representation.
Not to be some vote.
Okay, somebody help me out that I had to tell you. Those that I had to give me some information. I'm going to Marshall in a second. Yes.
One more parallel to religion that I noticed was that there was this one point where it's like a big quote from the Old Testament where it looked like he was comparing Black slaves to like the Israelites when they were captured in the morning for like Jerusalem's time.
He's well versed. Anybody else? Anybody have that piece in front of you? I would like to hear some of his language if you have it. Nobody has it.
I have it.
Is it in here?
He said he can't change his phone.
Oh, you can pull it out. You can pull that up.
Well, I read it, but the only thing that I highlighted was the fact that he was talking about the slave trade and how they was trying to make it not as harsh as it really is, but in fact, like, I feel like he mentioned all the other stuff, but I feel like he mentioned the slave trade because he was trying to tell us that it was beneficial, so that's why it was continuing. Yeah, they were making so much millions of it, so that's why it was around, although it was not. It was just basically inhuman. It's something, I don't remember where it's at. When I printed it, it was like 30-some pages, so I can't find it. But I remember him saying something about it.
This is just a quote I wrote down because it was interesting. But he said, I am not included within your
know if somebody think this out already, but I think I found it interesting how he used like you and your and I and us to show like the separation between like America and how we're so.
Bring it to present day again, and I'm making a larger point that I'm not gonna say, but I want you to keep this in mind, yes.
And I'm gonna bring it back to, as far as now with Black Lives Matter and All Lives Matter.
Okay.
And how, basically, we're basically saying both for Black Lives Matter, obviously shedding more emphasis and shedding more light on like the victims or us as African Americans being treated unfairly, but in a sense, we have other people who think, well, why do we always have to go ahead and separate, African Americans from the rest of society? That's always like a big question. Instead of separating them, why don't we include them? But yet, in a sense, when we feel included, we still feel like we're left behind. So,
Keep that point in mind.
When, some people say the 45th and others say my birthday.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
Related, still, there are other current events.
And then I have, well, kind of like what she was saying, when you said a quote, I think somebody said it, he was like, this 4th of July is yours, not mine. There's just like, when people say, about the Black Lives Matter, and it's kind of crazy because, like, it was just 2 black African American polices whooping black men. So like the media was trying to make it seem like those men are y'all's because they are part of the blue and white, and the black people was trying to remove them from their community. But then again, like they black too, just like how we black. So is that theirs or is that ours? Because at the end of the day, like I feel like that kind of go hand in hand with it too. But I don't know.
What about bending the knee?
I think it's interesting. I don't know. I don't play video games, but something about the Colin Kaepernick, how they basically took his name out of the song, and like
took his picture.
really, okay, well, yeah, they just didn't include him at all, and I think that that's interesting how when somebody stands up for something, they're basically quite hushed, basically. And so in that sense, it's like when it connects to like President Douglas, he might have thought that, or the people that invited him might have thought, oh, he's coming here to speak on behalf of the founding fathers. And like my sister said over here, he was basically like, are you guys mocking me seriously? And so in that sense, it's like interesting how they expect you to be hushed when you speak out, and then you basically end up being bashed or denounced of your accreditation.
Okay.
A quote that connects very well with that is, he states, "It's a day that reveals to him more than all other days in the year the gross injustice and cruelty to which he is the constant victim. Whenever an African American or someone that speaks up of this injustice, they're consistently attacked." For Colin Kaepernick, for example, the NFL, they just released new rules that if you have to stay in the locker room if you're not going to stand. It's just consistency that you're going to be attacked when you're standing up against the government, the people, or whatever. And to relate back to how you're saying, well, what's a good parallelism to the use of words? Frederick Douglass, he keeps saying to him more than all other days that he is the constant victim. He, them. And it sort of relates to how Donald Trump says, we will make America great again. And how his fan base says, yeah, we will, not you.
So I want you guys to kind of think about something, because I've told people this before. I've always kind of looked at the NFL and sort of the NBA too, as a modern day slave trade. Just a little. I mean, some people may get offended, but that might be a different topic for a different day, so I will digress. However, I think that anytime there's like an all-white institution where it's like the white men who are in power are over the institution, such as the NFL, anytime there is someone who is not wanting to stay in line and they want to step out and speak out on behalf of everyone else in the line, they will be the ones to get targeted. Right. And when we think about Colin Kaepernick, I don't even think I knew about that part about the video game situation. So away someone's legacy as a football athlete. So, in connection with what Frederick Douglass was saying, it's like basically anything that's not to conform with the white ideologies of what they think order looks like, you're going to be put down, you're going to be tormented. And when you think God we're not in those days, because honestly, Colin Kaepernick would be basically on death row by now if we were, dating back to Frederick Douglass's time period.
But I mean, it's kind of like the same thing today, I mean, it's less harsh, but it's still
the same thing. Yeah.
Cause it's like they literally have a censor over his player. Like what? Like how do you put the word censored over a person in a video game? Like it doesn't make sense. But I also feel like you were saying like that's kind of what I was getting it from, because like sometimes when I think of white people, like I feel like white people just all about the check. Like at the end of the day, that's really what it is. And I really feel like that's why slavery was so long, because it was so many millions of dollars. Like one football player is worth millions of dollars. So majority of the football is literally like owned by white people who are continuing to benefit and who not only have supported Trump but have gone the extra mile, like they Republicans and they doing stuff like that. So it's always gonna be like you said, like you follow our rules or you just cut out. And I feel like that is with the Kaepernick thing or whatever his name is. And it's crazy because even the part like YG, he said that he had no idea that they was gonna even remove Kaepernick from his song. So it's like real crazy. Like, but I feel like it's really nothing that's gonna happen because it's so many millions of dollars behind the NFL and the NBA and all the other stuff.
I was really just thinking, questioning as far as like, it's funny how you mentioned just the NFL and not really like any other sport in general, that I feel like is considered like a modern day slavery. But in a sense, I just think about it and think how the NFL is a dominant sport. So, it's considered mainly a white man's sport. It's mainly NBA that's a black man's sport. But that's all I was just thinking.
Anyone else on those comments?
I just found it crazy that America's team, which is the Cowboys, they were the first ones to implement that you cannot come out on the field if you don't stand. And how their manager and the owner of that team has oppressed, which their team is majority black. 89 to 90% of the team is a black team, yet you're oppressing them by sanctioning them, by taking away their money, because they know the one way to get to people is to take away their money, take away their endorsements. Don't give them the opportunity, don't give them the platform to stand on. And I feel like in bringing that back to Frederick Douglass, he was saying, you've given me this platform, so now I'm gonna use it.
That was my point too, I was thinking, what is the responsibility, because that's gonna come up when you are privy, because everybody doesn't have the privilege to have, everybody has a platform, so to speak, but when you have a wide platform, what is your responsibility? Because sometimes people do get there and they're quiet.
Same thing they did with Beyonce, or tried to do
They
Beyonce.
tried.
They tried to quiet her, but I also feel like it took a significant event in her life for her to speak out, because she wasn't always vocal. She was that pop princess. She was that one that was like, I don't want to go against the grain because this is where I'm getting my money. This is where my fans are coming from. So it took for something to hit her, like you said, a significant event. What was that significant event for her to come out at the Super Bowl in all that black, supporting Black Panthers and supporting Black Pride, and now continuing on to do that?
I remember a while back, but like even like black people try to like shut like famous people up too when they like speak out sometimes. Cause I remember when something happened with LeBron James, and everybody was like, "How can you speak on like the normal black life if you don't live that life?" And it was like trying to like tell him you can't speak on what you don't know. So I feel like it kind of goes.
But they forget that he do know.
And so that's the question we're gonna talk talk about sometimes they forgive, but sometimes the person
The
forgives.
person's
Right.
So that's a question but he had a racial incident, this year, earlier in the year. And now we're going back and forth with the president.
Yeah, like, what type of president do shit like that?
I think a lot of times, going back to, the point you were making, Crystal, it's just more so, I feel like our people are getting to a point where, and I mentioned this in one of like my classes yesterday, basically, you were asked the question, you know, what is like our opinions on basically gentrification of what's going on in Nashville, and basically my point was to say that, I mean, granted, I'm all for change, it's fine and dandy, but I feel like the culture is being left behind. And I feel like it's to a point where the next generation won't be able to relate to our generation, just the same way I feel like we can't relate to those in the, you know, previous generation as far as like with our grandparents. I feel like, in a sense, we're losing that connection, that touch. So that's one thing that I mentioned in that class. So gentrification is like a touchy subject for me because, I mean, we love, like, our communities, we're supposed to take care of them, right? So when we don't take care of our communities and everything is all condemned and we throw trash everywhere, and we can't get mad that somebody else is coming in, you know, and fixing it up, you know what I'm saying? Like, and then of course, like, we are losing our history, we're losing our heritage, but that's on us because we're not taking care of our communities, we're not.
You're raising a very good point that we're gonna talk about in this class, which you sound conservative right now, but, you know, but they make that point. You know, we always bash the whites, so to speak, and again, that's not all whites, even though we're using the term white and black, this is not all blacks and not all whites, and this, that, and the other. But the point being, there are internal things that you cannot bat your eye, close your eye to also that need to be dealt with. So that's gonna come across, not just in the conservative book, that we have, but our book of conservatives, but, it is an issue. And so, again, that is an issue, it's a big one. And so it is very present, we're living in this gentrification areas all around, it's displacing some people. And that's something you'll find out in politics, again, not all blacks, but blacks seem to be, for the most part, reactionary. Because what stuff we're looking at, this didn't just come up, people have been planning this for a long time. It was happening in stages, and so you can't afford to sleep, but that's my point. Those who are supposed to be represented and have that platform are, what are they? Because they are privy to information that we don't know. And you have a responsibility, that's the point, again, to come back and tell your community, so that they can be poised to do something. Whereas other groups are very proactive, excuse me. Before something happens, they're already downtown at the city council, at the state legislature, at this, that, and the other, the zoning meeting, blah, 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 because they have access to that information. They're saying, no, we call it WIMBY-NIMBY. WIMBY-NIMBY. WIMBY is, well, let me start with NIMBY. They said, no, not in, NIMBY is the acronym for not in my backyard. That's not gonna happen here. And so they organized to fight those things. WIMBY is, why in my backyard? You look up and bam, there it is. Now you want to know why, and then you react. So you become more reactionary instead of being proactive. And some of that, you know, cannot just totally be blamed on the other folk. So we have to take also some self-responsibility in these issues. But still, it's not right when you talk about these kinds of issues. So there's enough to talk about all sides, and we're going to deal with it in this class and see what various thinkers have said about these quote-unquote black issues. That's all.
I just, a question for Raven. You had made the point about how the gentrification is happening, but the culture is also leaving. And then you said a lot about with your generation, like my generation, generation ahead of y'all. Do you think that because your generation, the millennial generation, is so accepting of what's happening, like what I hear from the time we was in freshman classes together, and we would talk about how with this new generation, with this millennial generation, it's like, I'm okay with, and I'm just gonna say this for class sake, I'm okay with homosexuality. I'm okay with, you know, having white neighbors. I'm okay with the changing because I get a good restaurant down here. You know, in my neighborhood, I get a good apartment in my neighborhood. So it's okay for us to change. but we're not taking the actions within our community to keep our culture there. So, is it lack of knowledge, you think, or just lack of caring?
I think it's both, but I'm leaning towards more so lack of caring. I feel like it's more so of a temporary, and how you mentioned, basically, I'd rather feel comfortable in having a new restaurant here, like say for instance, the Chick-fil-A on those parks.
Yeah.
People are so excited that, hey, we don't have to Charlotte Pike, but yet they're upset at the fact that, look at the traffic that's being made in going to Chick-fil-A on Rosa Parks. Also look at the Smoothie King. I realized going to Smoothie King, I believe on Rosa Parks, the prices are different from the Smoothie King down here down the street, by a couple cents, but it's still a difference, you know? So it's just like, I feel like it's more so a lack of not caring. It's just more so of a temporary feeling that, hey, you know what, I'm gonna be accepting just because, you know, there's this new, or there's like a generic or a popular generic restaurant that's in my neighborhood, knowing that years before, it was probably not even a question or not even a possibility of it ever being there. So I feel like it's a lack of caring, because I even see that in my community back at home. I feel like our generation, especially on like the latter part of the 2000s, it's just kind of like well, that's just not a priority.
Right.
And that's one thing that I'm worried
So you're
about.
saying that your generation should be the change?
They do, and you know what the question is, or the point that I see, I feel like our generation feels like we can be the change, but yet there's so much talking that they're, like you said, Dr. Evangel, it's like a reactionary response and not more so a proactive response. And so that's one thing where it's kind of, it's a walking contradiction every single day with our generation.
Okay, so but the ball has been dropped though. I think when you look at the Jewish community, and that's a good example, and you extrapolate, and you leave what you can't take, but you do look at other cultures. They pass things on. And I've seen little kids like that recite their history of how they came out of Egypt, and they can tell you all of that. Whereas before, some of these people today don't even know, speaking of black culture, don't care about Martin Luther King, okay, whatever, you know. So, but those things have to be passed down because it wasn't always this way. And so you have to keep, and I think that's how you keep that sense of urgency, that sense of, you know, because some people still don't get it. What is it about? And that's why somewhere it's been a break. And so you have to pass that on verbally. And I think a lot of that, talking about responsibility, starts in the house. You can't just, we talked about that a little bit in your money. You can't just expect the school system to just do it.
Right.
These are some things that have to be in the community, in the church, in the home, whatever. You don't see that in Cornel West's book. We call these the buffers, the protectors. They've been broken down over the years. We used to be more caring, more group-centered. Now, the big problem is, hey, as long as I got it, you know, hey, the rest of me, I wish you the best, but, you know, and that wasn't always that mentality. That's society, period. And Cornel West has a name for that. I'm not going to give all that away. We get to it when we get there. But it's a real phenomenon. I've been seeing Mr. Hudson forever, and then Savage.
I just wanted to speak on, like, because you brought up a good point with the reactionary and proactiveness that goes on in our community. It's like we see like certain buildings like, you know, Smoothie King, Jefferson Street Cafe, Chick-fil-A, and we have a problem with it now. But it's like before those buildings were there, like, did any of us think like, oh, I wonder who's gonna buy that, or how am I gonna buy that? You know, that's a proactive way of thinking about it. Like, it's like we will like drive by abandoned schoolhouses, abandoned buildings, abandoned houses 24/7. But it's like we never try to think, ooh, if I can buy the house, I can rent it out to like somebody else.
But we can't get that house. We can't get that house. And you know the bank don't really, it's crazy because they'll give you $100,000 student loan, but they won't give you a $50,000 house loan.
I put it this way, right? My dad, for instance, he just recently rented an extra house so he can run like another business out of it, or like make his office, right? He's already doing the calculation. He's like, by like sometime next year, he should have enough money to actually buy the house, and it's his. And then he can use that extra money to like rent other houses. It's like, it's a combination of saving and like having a goal to like get at that. That's that proactiveness with the practice. And it's like, I understand like not everybody's in the same situation, but it's like when we create more jobs for ourselves, then when we like actually create these businesses, we actually create more jobs for ourselves as well. So it's like, it's a cycle.
But I do believe in the saying, and there is a lot of truth to it, not negating the realness of what surrounds people. Where there is a will, there is a way.
Yeah.
That's true.
And we will to do what we want to do. And we're quick to say we can't do other things. But when you really want to, you're not gonna let any barrier stop you. See, that's where some people get over on certain races of people, because they know they're gonna throw a stumbling block because they know that's how you reason. So if you're quick to give up, I was proud of Black America when I from Florida here, when we had, I don't know which election, it was the first one, the second Obama election, and they tried to pull a trick to make it difficult, had long lines, knowing that a lot of people say, you know what, I'm out of here. But these people said, you know what, we gotta stay here till midnight. Even an old lady put a man to shame. She was about in her 90s. She had a lawn chair. She said, I'm gonna vote today. That's the kind of determination and will that you have to have. You know, people putting up stumbling blocks. So they're banking on people to say, oh, well, you know, just tuck your tail between your legs and say, oh, well, I'm gonna go back home and forget about it.
And not do
So, yeah. So that is, so we're gonna talk about that too, because I don't know at what point, but it's a piece in there where we start getting with, because I think one of the barriers in African America is the mental barrier. Not just the outside ones that are closed, but there's an inner thinking that has to be overcome. You can go no further than your mind. You can't. Not me, not you, not anybody. If you don't think you can do it, you're already defeated. But if you think you can, you can. That's even with white America. I think that's giving them too much power. Yeah, they're powerful, but not all powerful. So when we have that thinking, you give the other group too much control. We're gonna run across that in some of the readings that we are talking about. I think I saw your hand here.
In regards to like the generational stuff or whatever, I was gonna say, I kind of think first, like, I don't know if I would consider people that are like 20 and under to be millennials or not. So I kind of thought it was like 95 and after was yeah, so that's kind of what I thought. But I just, in conversations I've had with my parents, grandparents, aunts, and uncles, I think they kind of agree with me in that the youngest, like people our age, you know, like the youngest adults or whatever, are actually a little bit more proactive. It's like I hear more and more Black people my age saying that they want to start a nonprofit, they want to be a youth advocate, versus older generations were like, you know, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be a doctor, I want to make money and go to the suburbs. And I feel like there's more people that are younger that aren't thinking that way and that are beginning to fight back. And it's like the younger generations you see with natural hair, embracing dark skin more, all of that stuff that you said it starts with the mental. I see more positivity in the younger generation, I think.
Let's start this time.
Just to go back on the whole this intergenerational thing, I think more recent generations, kind of the end of us and the beginning of the generation behind us, they're less invested in the community, because I know personally myself, a lot of us get bussed out of our community to go to school because it's the better school, and we're kind of sent out of places and we go to the establishments that are better, which aren't in our community. So instead of building up what we have, we go out and we seek something else, and that's why we let our communities get so decrepit and torn down, because we're not putting anything into them. So these businesses go out of business, and then someone takes over, and that's how the gentrification comes about. And also with the history, they don't have, well, not they, but previous generations don't pass it down like they should, and teachers at schools aren't enforcing it. Like, I wouldn't have learned a lot of stuff about Black history if I didn't come to FIST, because my school wasn't teaching me that. They said Martin Luther King and that's it, and they kept it pushing. So like, it's just something that the older generations need to do and that we need to do as the younger generation. So it's on both parts. It's not just us, it's a group effort.
And that's interesting you mentioned that, because when somebody mentioned about I saw they revealed it as Smoothie King right there. And it probably wouldn't apply to you, but I know some people, I'm speaking on the mental thing, they still wouldn't go there because of the community. They would rather go down to the Vanderbilt area because of how it makes them feel.
Mm-hmm. But that Smoothie King is owned and operated by Black men.
You don't feel safe, you ain't gotta go.
It's owned and operated by Black men, Black football players that went to Vanderbilt. They wanted to come back into their community and give back to their community. And the reason why their prices are, that's where you have to go out into your community. And the reason why their prices are higher is because the interest that they have to pay on the building and the business is higher. The white businesses that you get pay a lower interest rate because they have less, collateral or something like that. I don't know how it all works, but they don't get as high of an interest rate as black business owners. As a black business owner, it's the same thing. When I was 18, I bought my first property in South Georgia at 18. Another young lady at 25 bought a property two houses down from mine. My mortgage was $200,000 more than hers because of our skin color. So when we say that our communities are dissipating, that we're not keeping the culture. If you look at history has told us all of Jefferson Street was black-owned businesses. It was black-owned houses. You know, it's
That's
not
everywhere.
Right.
And that raises the question, because we look at that, what did integration do? There was the positive and there was the negative. Because it took people, and again, because it's not total, but there was that mental component.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to Jefferson Street movie theater now because I can go over here to the one at Vanderbilt. I'm not going to Meharry over here, I'm going to Vanderbilt. And so it kind of hurt. That's the other side of integration. And that's what I'm saying, even though now, because I've known people that live in certain communities, they go way over in Brentwood just because of the way it makes them feel.
How do it make them feel?
And there's always, we had wonderful
You feel safe.
Make you
black
feel like you eat
businesses
alcohol.
on Jefferson Street, but they couldn't make it because their people wouldn't support them.
Yeah. And then we blame it on, oh, well, the customer service. No, it's not always customer service. It's like, you will go, like, I've seen this with my friends. We will go to a black establishment and they will try to finagle the price down. They'll go to a white establishment and they'll take it as it is. I'm like, what are you doing? I'm from New York, we finagle all the time. However, there are times when, okay, if you're going to be pro-black and you're going to have this consciousness about yourself, you have to start. You have to be the one that's going to say no. If something is wrong, if someone sells fist wrong on a t-shirt, are you going to buy it?
No.
So why would you go and do the same on the opposite side just because someone else white did it?
Like it's should just piggyback off like this time I was working with my pops, like he's on his own general contractor, right? Construction. We went to we went to President's Hub with the windows and black lady, we go in, she's like, oh no, they said niggas.
Ooh.
She said that to y'all entire face?
Yes.
And it's y'all business. Oh, I would've did something to her windows.
I'm sorry.
That is crazy.
By the end of the job, she's like, oh, these the best windows. Like, trying to be extra nice.
This is a black lady?
This is a black lady.
You should have put $2,000 extra on her bill.
You know what? To be honest, I honestly noticed that with elder people.
Yeah.
I know some of the elder people, they're so quick to throw that N-word against, or to our people, or to us. But it's just like, if we were to do that, this is what it is. That's what I never understood.
And that's why I say too, you have to look at where people come from.
Right.
And that's what kind of Obama says in his speech about his pastor. He said you have to understand the era of which he came up. This is why he feels the way that he feels. And those people feel a certain way because some people do. People not going around calling people a nigger today. Some do. But you had to do that and take it back in the day. And so they have a whole different conception. That's not to say people can't change, but people are usually coming from a certain perspective. And that's why I emphasize when these people speak or spoke, we have to look at what went on in their life, what was going on in the background, because it had an effect on how they see things and how they reason things and what have you. That's the reason we do have these generational gaps and what have you. Your grandparents probably not going to see. You always have some hip, older people who can get with it, but they're not going to see things the way that you do. The way you see things now, I guarantee you, and I'm speaking as an older person, you're not going to see them that way. When you get a little bit older, when you got children, when you got a spouse or whatever, things change. So you have to look at where the person is coming from. It does make a difference whether you're a parent or not. Some of us say, I would never do that. You may. You may. Okay.
Okay, so whenever you said that, I actually, last year when I was house I remember I was talking to my great grandmother about it, cause I didn't know how to feel. I was like, what do I do? Like I had come off, but I was like, so it seemed like with her, she was more, not, I guess accepting, she was just like, I'm sorry that happened to you, but when I talked to my mom and my dad, they was like trying to pull up, trying to see where he was. So I wouldn't say it was funny, but you can kind of see the difference in the mindset of like the different generations. Because I ain't gonna lie, I was about to cry, cause I was like, dang, I didn't even do nothing. Like I was crossing the right, it was my turn, but yeah. So I was just like the different generations and stuff. You can tell like how.
And again, and this is awesome, but I want you to get the principle and the point. Most of you are familiar with the Meghan Markle marriage to Prince Harry. Her mother had an incident like that's what brought it to me. And so that has been forever in her mind. She saw her mother cry because she pulled out in front of somebody and she heard this person call her mother a nigger. And she saw the effect that it had on her mother. So she has carried that with her. And so she's very, if you watch the way she was very, particularly in trying to bring in the black side or bring in all sides. Same thing with President Obama. Obama's very conciliatory because his mother is white. He was raised by white people, but then he always, if you read the Dreams of My Father, he always wanted to know that African-American, that African, in case this was an African, he wanted to know his father. He even went to Africa. And so all of his experience, he lived in Indonesia, he lived in Hawaii, he lived in whatever. So his experiences have made him the man of who he is. That's why he approached the presidency the way that he did. So you're not just looking at somebody just here today. Who we are now is all of what we have walked through, where we come from, how we were raised, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we have to take those things into consideration when we begin to dissect the voices of these people we're going to talk about in class. Okay. What time is it? Time is up.
It's 10:39.
Tell me about Thurgood Marshall real quick. At least start. He spoke, and I want you to know when he spoke, he had a platform because he was a sitting Supreme Court judge. The first and only at that point, black Supreme Court justice.
I love how he talked about basically the success, not success, but the lack of success that that at that time had made. I love that he was saying, like, there's been all these years, however, there's not been much progress made. And this dating back to, like how I said, Frederick Douglass, going back to the Constitution, his first paragraph was about the Constitution, the U.S. Constitution, and how we mentioned we the people, and that it's not us the people. And they were making some of the same points, and I think that the biggest part that we should highlight is the difference between the two speeches and how strongly connected they are in spite of the years difference.
Let me throw this out for thinking. Does he see the Constitution, did he see the Constitution the same as Frederick Douglass?
No. He said that he didn't believe that the Constitution was fixed in stone.
It's moving.
He said that.
He called it a
living document.
He said the true miracle was not the birth, but the life of the Constitution. The changes that have progressed through the years.
I will ask my people. Go ahead.
I think it's interesting when you asked about, like, in the prompt to contrast. I thought it was interesting how Douglass acknowledges them as the founding fathers, whereas Marshall acknowledges them as just friends. So I thought that was interesting. That immediately shows you the difference in their mindset of how they are approaching society and the different norms that are going on at the time.
I just thought the way he speaks of the Constitution initially, he kind of, there was one quote where he says, like, he was talking about the role slavery would play, but the framers made sure not to mention slavery or slaves, so he's kind of attacking their, like, word choice, and even he talks about we the people not meaning all of the people, so he's kind of
Right. If you had any doubt, so we do grapple with that in political science, not just in this class. Who is we the people? Who are those people? And if you had any doubt in 96, I believe, I might be wrong, I don't think that was placed, with the 1857, I think, Dred Scott. If you had any doubt, the Supreme Court justice told you that we the people did not mean certain things. And his famous saying, and that is considered a self-inflicted wound on the United States. All law schools would tell you this was the worst case in all of U.S. constitutional history. Well, you had the Chief Justice, his name was Taney. So if we had any doubt, these things are left to interpretation, he told you that it was never intended. He said a black man has no rights that a white man is bound to respect. And he said black people were like a piece of paper. They were properties, like an article of clothing. It's very interesting to study. It's a profound piece, to study when you look at the history of racism in this country. That's coming back from a court that is supposed to be unbiased. And the Chief Justice is the top person on the Supreme Court. And this is what he spoke. So we're going to dissect it a little more, but the two men looked at the framers and the founders different. I want you to go back and look at that. Different. And both were basically saying, he told you, he said, I cannot accept that invitation. All this hoopla about, he's talking about not the 4th of July, but the Constitution. This was the Bicentennial celebration. So I can't join that.
And it was, I just thought it was interesting that their speeches were 135
That's
years
one.
different.